Hello. Lisa and I are going to be talking about spirituality in group therapy. First, I'll give a definition of spirituality. This is by Kalila Borghini, licensed clinical social worker. She says, for some, spirituality involves performing rituals in one tradition or a combination of traditions. Others may express spirituality within the context of a particular religion, with varying degrees of commitment and involvement in the specific faith. Often the choices of a particular religion are handed down from one generation to the next. In addition, there are many people who, for a whole host of reasons, gravitate to one religion or another, and so choose it of their own volition. Spirituality may also include attention to one's well-being and the well-being of others. Spirituality can include values, beliefs, group associations, music, dance and art, charity and volunteer work, pilgrimage, acts of worship, yoga, meditation, use of plant medicines, family arrangements, scriptural study, and a sense of purpose in one's work and life. So obviously, there are so many different forms of spirituality. It is such a vast host of opportunities to involve in group therapy with any given population. We have noted through the years spirituality for use in substance abuse and rehabilitation with addiction. For instance, forgiveness, strength through a higher force, love of a creator or strength and guidance through a creator, mindfulness practices, and they're especially stronger with peer support. Also in death and grieving, rituals and releasing, prayer, daily spiritual aspirations, giving thanks, and forgiveness. But there are other aspects of psychology that have not really been researched as thoroughly. These include mental health illness, refugees, and trauma work, which currently research is showing the value of spirituality in these populations, vastly changing and helping them to heal. A growing body of research attests to the importance of religious beliefs and spiritual practices in coping with life-threatening illnesses, depression, and anxiety, among other conditions. Dr. Nancy Kehoe did a research on the topic of spirituality for use with clinical behavioral therapy in groups of people with very severe psychotic disorders. For 18 years, beginning in 1981, Nancy hosted a group of people that constantly changed throughout the year. The fears that the other therapists had were, would the discussion of religious and spiritual material foster a person's delusional ideation? Would such discussions strengthen a person's defenses and be counterproductive to treatment? How would the patients tolerate diverse systems of beliefs? And what difference, if any, would participation in such a group make? The group members abided by tolerance and respect of each person's spiritual or religious beliefs and were allowed to have any form of spiritual belief to participate with. Dr. Nancy Kehoe is actually also a nun, but the group involved Judaism, Protestant religion, Catholic, and Lutheran religions. I thought it was interesting that there was no Buddhist perspective, and it would be interesting if they could incorporate a Buddhist perspective for this population as well. The results were that a group focused on religious issues can provide even seriously mentally ill people with an opportunity to explore issues usually scanted by mainstream mental health practice. Properly guided in non-judgmental and non-proselytizing directions, such a group provides valuable therapeutic experiences in tolerance, acceptance of others' views, and thoughtful examination of belief systems, as well as opportunities to apply spirituality and values to life questions. Negative effects occur rarely and may be put to therapeutic use. Delusions are not exacerbated and defenses are not strengthened. In fact, group interactions reveal that individuals are more than their mental illness and that a neglected aspect of mental life can be fostered as a strength to the benefit of the individual in this program. The main aspects to note were that the patients could speak about how they felt about spirituality in the face of having a mental illness, and that the speaking about God and spirituality was not a symptom of the mental illness, but actually gave them strength to understanding their mental illness. There is no research to say that this form of therapy is better or worse for this population. Another aspect that is just now becoming more of a research topic is using spirituality in refugee populations. Addressing spirituality in group counseling can help the refugee client not only relate to the social worker in the mainstream population, but also to other refugees. Incorporating spirituality into group counseling can help clients connect with the other group members at a deeper level and have a more satisfying impact with group therapy. Discussing spirituality may give some clients a safe way to explore how religion and/or spirituality affected the conflict that forced them to leave their homes, the migration process, and acculturation in their host country. Spirituality may highlight strengths and resilience. Furthermore, it might help clients to apply these strengths to their present concerns in a way that facilitates healing and growth. In a study by Cornish and Wade in 2010, they asserted that the use of ritual or ceremony could be a particularly powerful spiritual tool when working with counseling groups composed of a specific cultural group. Practitioners leading such groups could survey members to identify common spiritual rituals of ceremonies that could be incorporated in the group process. Being able to engage in shared practice could serve to strengthen the bonds among members. Group counseling that incorporates cultural ceremony and ritual allows the members to feel heard and seen and honored. It also creates space for the members to express themselves, sharing more intimate details of their life in a healing way. Another research project on spirituality in conjunction with cognitive behavioral therapy done in Boston at McLean Hospital that treats primarily mood disorders, anxiety, personality, and psychotic disorders, and uses CBT as their primary treatment, they found that treatment that had a spiritual aspect to it offered patients an introduction including disclaimers and psychoeducation about the relevance of spirituality to patient symptoms, the integration of spiritual beliefs and ideas into cognitive strategies, and the integration of spiritual practices into behavioral strategies. Patients often come in and out in 1 week as an intensive inpatient care, psychoeducational, and learning skills environment. So it's a brief therapy, and they really found that it worked wonders by giving these patients something that lasted for much longer than their week intensive. It introduced spirituality in the form of exploring within the group, how the belief and practice of spirituality can be incorporated within their treatment plans, and explored spirituality as a resource for treatment. And the results were that after 4 months of this practice, participants filled out a survey in which 92% of them said that they had a spiritual practice still ongoing, and 87% said that spirituality had an effect on mental health. And out of these, 95% said that spirituality should be a part of treatment, and 93% believed that spirituality could accelerate recovery. They're also doing so much research now in trauma and how spirituality can really help people who've been traumatized. Dr. Meichenbaum, a psychologist who teaches spiritual methods for trauma, says that many people associate their group identity with their spirituality, and it is an imperative aspect of how they face trauma and how they find healing. He gives statistics. In America, over 90% of Americans believe in some form of God. 60% of Americans go to church or religious place of worship, and 80% are interested in growing spiritually. Hoyt in 1994 describes how a ritual can be used to help victimized clients deal with the lingering impact of abuse in their family. The psychotherapist helped the client to become emotionally divorced from an abusive father by engaging in a ritualized spiritual ceremony. With the help of her husband, the client read a prepared biographical statement, played carefully selected music, and burned her father's photograph, creating a decree of divorce. She signed this and was witnessed by her group, followed by a brief celebration with the group. The client felt that she completed a chapter of her life. Meichenbaum lists 10 other areas where spirituality can help in healing from trauma. 1. Spiritual coping activities can help the individual speak in a more positive, affirming language. whereas normally the one who is in trauma will speak in hopeless and negative, victimized language. 2, it normalizes reactions and internal spiritual struggles. 3, it encourages emotional expression, emotional comfort, and emotional control by fostering self-disclosure and sharing. 4, spirituality conveys a sense of control and mastery that helps people feel that they are not mere victims of arbitrary events in which bad things happen to good people, or that good things happen to bad people. A belief in a higher power who is perceived as being in control implies less arbitrariness in what happens. 5, it fosters social interconnectedness with others who are practicing a form of spirituality and have gone through similar experiences, especially in group therapy, strengthening their bonds and resilience. 6, spirituality promotes group cohesiveness and a sense of shared communion with past and present. 7, it promotes public opportunities for shared grief and mutual support and reaffirms that victims' sufferings and sacrifices were not for nothing. 8, it offers a degree of closure, transition, and hope. 9, spirituality can nurture meaning-making and, in the face of misfortune, create new meanings and new future meanings. And 10, it provides guidance in the form of coping models. For example, the Bible and other religious texts, mindfulness texts, and texts on gratitude and finding happiness in spirituality. Traumatic memories are not obstacles to be obliterated, removed, escaped from, for these efforts will fail. But these memories are a bridge from the past to the present and the future. Memories are not to be forgotten, but to be contained and sanctified. Religious practices such as prayer, which is an exercise in religious reframing, meditation, and mindfulness activities that can reduce arousal, and acceptance and forgiveness activities that control negative emotions like anger, guilt, and shame, as well as nurture empathy, have each been found to help individuals cope with trauma. And finally, from Mindfulness and Psychotherapy by Drs. Christopher Germer, Ronald Siegel, and Paul Fulton, they speak of therapy with depression using mindfulness techniques. It's a desert, desolate, lifeless. I can't even see you on the horizon. The thing is, I'm not fully here either. The patient's words capture the pain, isolation, and withdrawal that are central elements of depressive experience. Depression involves turning away from experience to avoid emotional pain. This withdrawal deprives the depressed person of the life that can only be found in direct experience. Mindfulness is the practice of turning towards the experience at hand and thereby challenging the depressive stance. These authors look at how mindfulness can bring the therapist and patient to the heart of the patient's pain. Mindfulness enables the client to be provided with intimate company in this territory, helping them turn towards life and away from that pain. They say we can only go the last distance by surrendering to the moment-to-moment co-created experience. We participate in something of which we are dimly aware, trying to shine the light of understanding at the same time. What mindfulness brings to this endeavor is our added capacity to be present with the density of this experience, the depth of our pains, the ways in which each patient feels alone and then left to himself. And we can lend the draft of our presence, tolerating hours after hours, and add to the experience, attempting to sit with each person free of our own need for something to happen. And in group therapy, this is so important that each member can find that way to be mindful with themselves, patient with themselves, and mindful of each other with that collaboration from the therapist and that collaboration from the group support. Now I'll hand you over to Lisa, who will be talking about spiritual emergence and actual pitfalls of spirituality in group therapy. Thank you.